Yes, greetings, Mr. President.
How are you?
More life and blessings on you and your family.
What's your name?
My name is Miguel Williams, but you can call I Stepper.
Stepper.
Yes, yeah, man. That is quite sufficient. Yeah, man. My question has to do and surrounds U.S. policy as it regards the legalization, the decriminalization of marijuana.
How did I anticipate this
Yeah,
question?
man. Yeah, man. And it's yeah, man.
How did I guess this question?
Yes, and Mr. President, it really comes on the foreground of we face economic challenges with the IMF, etc. And we find realistically that the hemp industry, the marijuana industry, provides a highly feasible alternative to rise up out of poverty. So I'm wanting to overstand and to understand how US is visioning, how would you see Jamaica pushing forward on a decriminalization, legalization emphasis on the hemp industry? Give thanks.
Well, let me, I do want to separate out what are serious issues in the United States and then how that relates to our foreign policy and our interactions with the region. There is the issue of legalization of marijuana, and then there is the issue of decriminalizing or dealing with the incarceration and, in some cases, devastation of communities as a consequence of nonviolent drug offenses. I am a very strong believer that the path that we have taken in the United States in the so-called war on drugs has been so heavy in emphasizing incarceration that it has been counterproductive. You have young people who did not engage in violence, who get very long penalties, get placed in prison, and then are rendered economically unemployable, are almost pushed into then the underground economy, learn crime more effectively in prison. Families are devastated. So it's been very unproductive. And what we're trying to do is to reform our criminal justice system. And the good news is there has actually been some interest on the part of unlikely allies like the evangelical community or some otherwise very conservative Republicans, because it's very expensive to incarcerate people, and a recognition that this may not be the best approach. So that's one issue. There's then the second issue of legalizing marijuana, whether it's medical marijuana or recreational use. There are 2 states in the United States that have embarked on an experiment to decriminalize or legalize marijuana, Colorado and Washington State. And we will see how that experiment works its way through the process. Right now, that is not federal policy, and I do not foresee anytime soon Congress changing the law at a national basis. But I do think that if there are states that show that they are not suddenly a magnet for additional crime, that they have a strong enough public health infrastructure to push against the potential of increased addiction, then it's conceivable that that will spur on a national debate. But that is going to be some time off. And then the third issue is, what will U.S. international policy be? And we had some discussion with the CARICOM countries about this. I know on paper a lot of folks think, you know what, if we just legalize marijuana, then it'll reduce the money flowing into the transnational drug trade. There are more revenues and jobs created. I have to tell you that it's not a silver bullet. Because, first of all, if you are legalizing marijuana, then how do you deal with other drugs? And where do you draw the line? Second of all, as is true in the global economy generally, if you have a bunch of small, medium-sized marijuana businesses scattered across the Caribbean, and this is suddenly legal, if you think that big multinational companies are not going to suddenly come in and market and try to control and profit from the trade, that's, I think, a very real scenario. And so I think we have to have a conversation about this, but our current policy continues to be that in the United States we need to decrease demand. We need to focus on a public health approach to decreasing demand. We have to stop the flow of guns and cash into the Caribbean and Central America and Latin America. And at the same time, I think the Caribbean, Latin America, Central America have to cooperate with us to try to shrink the power of the transnational drug organizations that are vicious and hugely destructive. And if we combine a public health perspective, a focus on not simply throwing every low-level person with possession into prison, but trying to get them treatment, we combine that with economic development and alternative opportunities for youth, then I think we can strike the right balance. It may not, comport with completely with your vision for the future, but I think that we could certainly have a smarter approach to it than we currently do. Got time for one more question? One more question.